right, well, I hope you're only going to have to be real quiet to hear it. I have a feeling it's not going to be quite loud enough. But we got the sound cranked all the way, so asking us to turn it up louder is not really going to help. All right, you ready? You're ready? Is everybody ready to see it?
The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwelled in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined. Isaiah 9:2. When we are surrounded by darkness, even the smallest light makes a difference. Imagine the difference the light of the gospel can make in a dark country. The people of Vanuatu live in this darkness and desperately need the light of Jesus Christ. Located in the South Pacific, this small island nation has a population of 260,000 people. There are 3 official languages: English, French, and Bishlama, as well as over 100 tribal languages. Vanuatu is bound by the traditions of their forefathers. While cannibalism was outlawed in the 1980s, witchcraft and sorcery are still commonly practiced today.
Hi, we are Levi and Jen Pitman. We have 2 sons, Jonathan and Luke, and we are sent out of PM Aug Baptist Church in Rochester IN. My dad, Jerry Pitman, is the pastor. We have been serving in Vanuatu since 2008. I was raised in a pastor's home and received Christ as my Savior when I was 7 years old. When I was 17, I took my first missions trip to Vanuatu to serve for 3 months. I returned for 3 more months in 2010. After Bible college, God called me back to serve for a longer term. I served as a ministry assistant for 2.5 years. During my time in Vanuatu, I helped with many ministries, such as outreach hikes into remote jungle villages and church planting. I was able to provide mechanical, building, and technical support. God was able to use me to bless several missionaries where parts and skilled labor are not available. As I ministered, I learned the local language, the culture, and made lasting friendships there.
I was not raised in a Christian home, but was raised with good morals from my hard-working immigrant parents. Praise the Lord, they were able to accept Christ as their Savior in 2019, after 16 years of praying for their salvation. When I was 10, I was invited to vacation Bible study at Antioch Baptist Church, where Levi's dad pastors. There I learned about God. I started attending church all the time. I was thankful for the church bus that transported me and my sister and cousins to and from church. At age 12, I went to church camp in Colorado, and there I accepted Jesus as my Lord and Savior on June 13, 2003. The first time I heard about Vanuatu was from my best friend and mentor, Levi's oldest sister. She was the first real missionary I knew, and I loved hearing about what God was doing through her in Vanuatu. I prayed one day I would be able to serve there. While in high school, God placed the love for children, teaching, and languages in my heart. Therefore, I pursued a degree in language education with teaching English to speakers of other languages in college. While in college, I went on my first missions trip, during which God opened my eyes. I felt God's call to missions. He opened doors for me to serve, teach, and share the gospel overseas. During my 4 years of college, I served in Poland twice, Ukraine, and the Philippines. And during my senior year, God answered a 6-year-long prayer of mine to go to Vanuatu. He made it possible for me to complete part of my student teaching in Vanuatu. I spent 3 months teaching in a local school, as well as helping with various church ministries such as youth group and children's church. I immediately fell in love with the people, culture, and country. During my time there, Levi and Lydia were there as well. I reconnected with Levi, and we both felt it was God's will for us to start a courtship after 11 years of friendship. And during our engagement, God called us to return as a married couple to serve on the islands of Vanuatu.
Our Our mission is to redeem the time by partnering with national pastors and assisting missionaries to providing practical support, such as mechanical, technical, and building. We are actively involved in teaching, discipleship, and evangelism to advance the gospel. We are grateful to work with an on-field organization, Friends in Action, who provided us with a visa, a home, a vehicle, a workshop, and many other resources to help missionaries and national pastors. Friends in Action uses construction projects and practical services to speed the gospel to those that have never heard. We are actively involved in Louisville Baptist Church. I preach at least once a month and teach Wednesday night Bible studies. I go on jumbo outreaches and get to be a part of the church openings of the missionaries that Louisville Baptist Church supports. I help with repairs on the church buses and the trucks used for many ministries such as Sunday morning pickups, kids Bible clubs, and teams.
I'm thankful for the opportunity to help teach Sunday school and be involved in women's group. We visit new moms and sick moms and encourage them with a small devotional interests. Large buckets filled with murky water, empty dirty water jugs, and broken water tanks were just a few things we noticed during our visit in Meadowwood, a remote village in Big Bay. We drove close to 3 hours of rough terrain and crossed 2 rivers. We visit the village to assess the need of water and speak with the people affected by the lack of water. Many walk from 1 to 2 hours to retrieve water from the water source.
Pastor Gabby, a Baptist national pastor in Big Bay, approached Friends in Action with a vision of reaching unreached villages around him by providing water for them. We are excited to partner with national pastors and missionaries in Vanuatu to bring water through a 15-mile gravity-fed pipe system to 30 villages below. More than 1,500 Nevan people will be blessed by the new water source. Bringing the water to these villages will also open the door for Pastor Gabby and other national pastors and missionaries to come and share the gospel of Jesus Christ. Please pray for us as we prepare for this massive project. Cyclone season is a hard time for the locals, but it's also hard for the missionaries that are working in unreached people groups in remote villages. It is hard because they have to cross rivers in their trucks to get to the villages. With high rivers and rough terrain, it can take a toll on their vehicles. During the past cyclone season, I had the opportunity to help 4 missionaries with their vehicles, 3 of which live in remote villages working with different people groups and translating the Bible into their local dialects.
Another ministry is working with other missionaries, such as my sister and brother-in-law, by helping them with teams and building construction. We have seen many come to the Lord through the outreaches with teams and building activities. We are grateful for God's faithfulness and provision in our first term. God is working in the lives of the people of Vanuatu. The gospel was shared many times and we saw many accept Christ. It was a blessing to see how many grow in the Lord. We praise the Lord for the relationships formed through discipleship. We are excited to get back to Vanuatu and continue sharing the good news. Will you prayerfully consider partnering with us through your prayers and financial support?
presented here, I think we only did it the one time and talked about Vanuatu, that probably a lot of people that, I don't know, like, we go to all these churches and we share all this information about Vanuatu, but we haven't really done it at our own church, but one time years ago. So, does anyone have any questions about Vanuatu? Any questions? Somebody's got to start. Yep.
What's the population?
That's a good question. Population is about 300,000 now. So it's finally gone up. I think in the video I said it was 280 or 270 something, but it's
260, I think.
It's 300,000 now, so it has bumped up. Yeah, I think it was 263. So. Yes, sir. In town, there's toilets at work. Their toilets, though, are built totally different than our toilets. When you open them up in the back, it's a whole different system than America uses. But anyway, yeah, if you go out away from town, then they don't have toilets. They have big holes they dig in the ground.
We're basically camping.
How hot does it get? Now, that's not a tricky question. The temperature averages from, in the winter, it might get as cold as like the low 70s, and that would be at night when the sun's not out. Which 70s to us, that's not cold here. But, and then it'll get as hot as the mid 90s. I mean, sometimes it might hit 100. But the problem is the humidity. The humidity is almost always at 100%. So, you know, like a couple days ago when it was really, really hot outside, it was only like 80 something or 70 something here, but the humidity made it feel way worse. So that's what it's like in Vanuatu all the time. And we don't have AC in our house. We can't just walk inside and sit down and be comfortable away from the heat. We just have windows that are open, so like the air from outside blows in. It's hot and humid inside the house. We go take a shower at night. You get out of the shower, you dry off, you feel really good for about 15 minutes or so, and then your skin's all clammy and sticky from the humidity. When you get in bed and you pull the sheets over you, the sheets kind of stick to you, and it's, to me, I think that's the hardest, most miserable thing about Vanuatu, at least for me, it's the humidity.
But how much rainfall does it get?
Rainfall?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact amount that we get every year, but it's a good amount. I used to tell people there's rainy season and then there's really, really rainy season.
How difficult is it to get fuel for your vehicles and whatnot there?
So we can buy fuel in town. The fuel is pretty dirty. I've never been in a place where you have to change your fuel filters out so much, like all the time. So, but how difficult or how expensive? Well, yeah. Well, everything has to be imported. Before, like right around when the war started in Ukraine, which I don't know if it's affected it, but we were at $15 a gallon. $15 a gallon for diesel. That's pretty expensive to drive around.
Is it ever flood there?
Yeah, well, so most of the time the ground is pretty porous and it soaks up all the water. But I've been there a few times when we got so much rain that it started flooding certain areas. So every once in a while, but you can get it 1 or 2 days without rain and it's all gone. So it only floods when it's been raining for like 2 weeks straight and there's nowhere for the water to go after that point. I think there was a question in the back somewhere. Anyway, anyone else have a question?
Do you have like electric generators if you really need it?
Generators?
Electric generators, yeah.
So, actually, our entire town, the Luganville town, is ran off of giant generators.
But I mean out the jungle.
So we have a little Honda suitcase generator that we take with us when we go out there. But actually, on our house, we're not connected to power. If we tried to get connected to the town power, but we live just far enough away that it would be. The lowest price we got quoted was $22,000 to $26,000. Not $100,000, $26,000. So we were like, I think we can. I mean, you can buy a pretty nice solar system for that price. And that was if we did all the work. We were only using their wire. So anyway, yeah, we use a little Honda suitcase generator at our house. We have solar batteries. Our solar batteries had died, so the whole first year of us living there, we could run we have these refrigerators that we have over there are just 12 volt DC. I don't know if you've ever heard of a 12 volt DC fridge, but that's what we have. We have a freezer that's 12 volt and a fridge. And we've never had enough electricity to run the freezer. So it's kind of hard for Jen because Jen's a planner and we like to, it's nice to buy meat. Or we had cattle on our property. We could get kill a cow and have the beef in the fridge, but we can't do that because we don't have a freezer. So it was rough living the first two and a half years there without a freezer. And then our fridge started dying because if we went a couple days without sun, we'd have to run a generator to try to charge the batteries. And so many times we'd wake up in the morning and our fridge would be beeping at us because it didn't have enough power to run. And we lost a lot of food that way. But anyway, we sent over new batteries for a solar system, and they got held up in New York because there was a lot of wind up there, and they couldn't load it on the ship. So anyway, they'll be getting to New Zealand today. So they're getting to New Zealand today, which is not really going to work out for us because we'll be in Vanuatu, early next week. So. And we're leaving tomorrow morning. So anyway, the batteries are going to be lagging behind a little bit, but we went ahead and bought some cheap batteries in town. So we're hoping it's going to be enough for us to run our refrigerator. But hopefully, Lord willing, in a few months when we actually get our solar system, our actual batteries that we bought in America, we bought them from a missionary group that does special deals for missionaries. So we got the batteries for a good price. Anyway, with that, we should be able to run our freezer, be able to run our fans all night long, which will be real nice to have fans blowing on you. Remember I said we don't have AC, so that's nice to have fans running. Our fridge, so that'll be life closer to normal. But there's still a lot of things that we can't do it unless we run a generator, So just little things that we like to do in America. Like if you want to sit down and watch a movie at night, we'll have to turn on a generator to watch a movie at night. And with the generator using fuel and with fuel costing so much, there'll be not very many movies watched through, So anyway, yeah, just certain things are different because of our power situation. Sir?
Okay, it's Vanuatu Islands, right? Is it where they're stationed at?
Yes, sir.
What's the name of the town you actually live in then?
So we are just outside of Luganville. Luganville, yep. So our island, there's it depends on how most of the time I say there's 2 towns so there's 83 different islands. It's kind of a string of islands. And really there's 2 towns on those islands. Or I'd say Port Vila, is more of like a city now. So Port Vila, which is on the capital island, and then our island, which is the largest island, it has Luganville. Now, technically, you could say there's a town on Malakula and there's a town on Tana, but they're not really much of a town. It's like a village kind of that has a couple of vending machines. But our island, the town on our island has about 13,000 people. But when you see that town, you would assume it's a town of 1,000 or you'd think of it as something like Macy, because they just don't have, in America you go to a town that's 13,000. That's bigger than our town here. In our town we have Walmart, we have all these stores and all these places to go buy stuff. Over there's just a couple little stores. The reason why the population is so high is because everybody lives in little kind of like shacks out around they're nice if they have a metal roof on them, but generally everything's just like the huts. Just everyone lives really close on top of each other out there.
Remember, you told me before, did you build your own house there? Or
I haven't, not yet. I want to. I helped Matt build his own house, and I helped Matt build his house. Then Matt built a newer house after that, and he had a friend from New Zealand come over and help with that. But my plan is, in the future, I'd really like to build a house, but I think we're still saving up and working towards that in the future. So
Or just out of curiosity, how big is your house? I mean, 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
we have
Square footage wise and everything?
we have 2 bedrooms. So our house, somebody said it was a chicken coop before, and I honestly don't know if he was joking
Yeah.
or if it was actually a partial chicken coop that they added on. It's been added on like 3 times. So, and honestly, I could see it being a chicken coop because of the first half of it was kind of set up like, anyway, but it was concrete and it was built to last. So, cinder blocks, and then they plastered the walls. So, but we have 2 bedrooms. There's a 3rd room that we could turn into a bedroom or use it like a bedroom. There's several kind of weird open spaces that just the house wasn't really well thought out. As far as square foot, I don't know. It's a little bit bigger than this whole basement. If you were to knock out all the, actually I don't know. Yeah, I'd probably say if you were to knock out all these walls here, our basement, I mean our house could, it's about this size. Yeah. So we have some. The roof in some places is pretty high though, which helps with the heat, getting the heat away from you. But then other rooms, the roof is only like this high, so it gets really hot in those rooms. Yeah, so it's got higher ceilings. But
I'm just curious, in case we'll want to come over and visit sometime.
huh?
I was just curious. in case
Oh,
we'll
yeah,
want to
yeah.
come visit sometime.
Yeah.
Well, we also
We'll bring banana pudding for us.
hey, we got lots of bananas there too. You can make some.
We'll have to bring bananas, we'll get them there.
Yeah, we'll get them there.
Now, on the property that Friends in Action owns, it's 248 acres there. So we got a good bit of property, and that's where we run the cattle. And the cattle, they basically take care of themselves. We hire, we have 3 employees that work with us. And in Vanuatu, I mean, we pay more than this, but minimum wage is $2 an hour. And that's what it is everywhere. So we pay our employees a little bit higher. We actually have a house for one of them. We pay for all the electricity and everything there. But they help with cattle and stuff like that. And then we're able to take those cows. We donate cows for the missions conferences they do in town every year. We donate cows for the Bible conference. We donate cows for a lot of stuff. And then we sell cattle. And when we don't sell a lot of cattle, but when we do, it's just to finance the projects that we're working on with like the water project and stuff like that. So, and that's we have to be really careful how we handle that finances because we're NGO. If any money looks like it's not being used for the NGO purposes or what we're doing, then we can be in trouble. So, but yeah.
So do you guys have like lights in your houses?
Yep, we got little 12-volt lights. So pretty much everything in the house runs off 12-volt DC, like a car. So just because running an inverter kind of wastes electricity. So we bring everything in from the sun through the solar panels, and it's all DC power. And then for us to turn it back into AC wastes a little bit of power and then use it on the appliance. So as much of it as we can keep as 12-volt DC. So all of our lights in our house are 12-volt, just like what you'd have in your car. We have cigarette out like the outlets in your car, the cigarette, or I don't know what we call them today. Nobody uses that really, but
Accessory outlet.
yeah, those little accessory outlets. We have those in our house for wall outlets. So we buy the chargers that you use in the car to charge your phone. You plug it into that and then plug in the USB. That's what we use around our house. Plug those into the walls. So yeah, our house is a little bit different. The fans are 12-volt DC fans. They're actually treadmill motors out of some treadmill. Mount them up there. We have some hardware made up, and then these big plastic blades that we run on them, and those things push air. They really do. So, sorry, what was this? I forgot your question now. Oh, lights. Yeah, 12 volts. Yeah, sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent from that. Yes, we do have lights. Although when our power was really bad, we didn't have lights. But how it works with the power, I mean, lights are generally the last thing to go.
Yeah.
But we don't like to, you don't want to drain your solar batteries so far below the limit that they can't even power a light. So once your batteries get pretty low, you just turn off everything, because running lights are just gonna be little.
Turn on there, don't start lighting some candles.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yep.
I just keep busy today.
No, hey, the more questions, the better.
How far is it from where you lived out to where you going to mission field at?
Well, so town is about 15 minutes away from us. Town used to be 45 minutes away from us because we used to drive on the old coral roads that we built during World War II. You know, the GIs built it.
Yeah.
It used to take 45 minutes to get to town because they were so bumpy, but now we can get there in 15 minutes. But to get out to the bush is still old roads. So it takes about 4 hours for us to get to the bush. And that's like the Big Bay where we're going to be working. Yeah, around 4 hours to get there. Now, if I take the dirt bike, we can do it in a lot quicker time than that. But you can't carry as much stuff. But if you got to run up there just to get a message to them, because some days, like they don't have good reception up there, and a lot of times they don't have their phones charged and stuff. So in town, a lot of people will buy these little like solar systems. It's like a little bitty square panel you put it on your thatch roof, you know, and then you got this little bitty battery that you can charge your cell phones on, and everybody's got a cousin or an uncle that has one of those, so everybody's going and visiting him, trying to charge their little cell phones. You'll see Nevans walking around, they have a loincloth, and then a cell phone tucked, like wedged against their skin, and their belt's holding it to them. And I saw one guy, I don't know if it was actually working or not, but he had a solar panel like this on a roof, 2 wires coming out of the end of it, and he had those 2 wires bare, and they were stuck into the bottom end of his phone. I don't know if he's actually charging or what, but I was very like, how did he figure out what pins to get? Anyway, but Nevans have figured out, but he's got cell phones now, so there's a lot of places where they'll have cell phones in the bush, but there's only certain places they can go to use it to call. So they'll have to hike an hour or 2 to get a call. Like Pastor Gabby, he's been staying in contact with me through a Facebook Messenger, but he has to hike 2 hours to get to where he can send me a message. And we can't call, it's only enough that he can text me. So, but it's been nice to be able to stay in contact. But because of that, sometimes I'll have to take the dirt bike to run out there to get a message to them, because I know they're not gonna hike up to see it. You know, maybe once a week they might go hike somewhere where they get reception. So dirt bikes are handy for that. Otherwise, yeah, about 4 hours to get to the bush.
So they don't have like cell phone towers everywhere like they do.
No. No, see, I'm waiting on Elon Musk with the Skynet. Or not Skynet, Starlink. Because one day our cell phones will connect to that and all our problems will be solved.
And everybody will know everything about everybody else.
Yes,
They
sir.
already do, it's called Facebook.
Yes, what kind of opposition to preaching the word is there over there?
So, I would say a lot of it will come from the witch doctors or from the chiefs, because they see us coming in and sharing the gospel as bringing like Western culture in, and they feel like they lose power, or they lose control over people. And the water project that we were talking about in the video, could everyone hear the video pretty well?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so in there, when we talk about that water project, Pastor Gabby's the one that's wanting us to do that. So he came to us and he's like, hey, there's all these villages around us. Like Pastor Gabby, I mean, this guy has gone to multiple islands. He's got his own Bible college up there. Like, he's a great soul winner. But there's still a lot of villages right at his doorstep that won't let him come and share the gospel. So he's gone, you know, all over to Vanuatu, and then some people, next door neighbors to him, won't let him come and present the gospel because they're like, oh, it's changed your village so much and this and that. We want to stay traditional. But so a lot of times it's the witch doctors that are, you know, have opposition to us and that don't want us to come in. And Pastor Gabby realized, which even in America, if you do something for somebody, people feel that need to reciprocate or do something back for you. Well, it's way more so in Vanuatu with their culture. They feel the need or obligation to do something back. So Pastor Gabby's like, look, if we can bring this water and give water to all these people, each village that we bring water to, they will be happy for us to come and share the gospel. So already we're trying to get this water project started, and we're working on all the paperwork and working with the government, trying to get it all finalized. And we're having Pastor Gabby go and do some different surveys and talk to different villages, and he's already using that as witnessing opportunities. So he's like, well, we were at this village, and since I was there, and since we were already talking to them about this, I went ahead and so he's already starting to lead people to the Lord through that water project. So that's pretty awesome. And yeah, so basically the opposition we face mostly is from the witch doctors and stuff like that, the chiefs, just because they see it as a loss of power. Mostly schools. Schools are really open to us. They let us come and present the gospel. The government's really open. I can only think of one school where we went and we were giving out creation science books. And there was a teacher there that just did not want us there. Didn't want us sharing the gospel, didn't want us giving out those books. But generally, it's only in the villages where we have more of a obstacle.
Do they have like rain gardens over there, like they do here? How, if they do that, how do people react? I know they're really pushing here.
All the big, like the big windmills.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have anything big like that over there. Like I said, our town runs off a generator. That's what powers our town. So, and town power is also not very good power. Like you get power surges all the time. Shut down the generator to maintain it all the time. Like you lose power once or twice a week if you're on town power. But as far as I wanted to get one of those for Vanuatu because where we live up on that hill, we get a lot of wind. So we live probably 700 meters, 700 yards from the ocean, and we're up on this big hill, and we get the breeze from the ocean like all day long. And I thought, and we get it more in the night when the sun sets. I don't know about the temperature difference or something. It picks up the wind. So I thought it would be a great idea, but I talked a lot with New Tribes, and New Tribes, they're the ones that have helped us out with the solar stuff. They just, the wind turbines, there's not enough power that you can really generate off those for it to really be worth it. Yeah, you got to be in a place where you get very little sunlight and a lot of wind. And I looked into it and talked to them about it. They help missionaries out all over the world, and they just didn't think it would really be beneficial for the price that I could pay for one extra panel or a couple extra batteries. Yeah, there's just more things that, and cyclones, you gotta lock it all down, and yeah, so, although I thought, man, it sure would be nice to be charging the batteries in the middle of the night, but anyway. Yes, sir.
So they use leaves as clothes?
More of in the more remote places, really remote villages. So, most of the time people have got clothes like that they've got. I mean, you'll see a guy that's been wearing the shirt for the last 10 years. I mean, I know I'm going to go over there, and all my friends that I've seen, in the bush, they're going to have their same t-shirt. It's just going to have 4 more holes in it, because they don't just go and buy clothes. Australia, other countries will donate clothes to Vanuatu, So sometimes people get clothes given to them, or they buy them real cheap in town. But like a guy might have like 2 or 3 shirts, and that's what he wears all the time. Well, generally in the bush they don't wear a lot of shirts. It's just loincloths. And for loincloths, all they have to have is some fabric, like a towel almost, and they kind of pull the towel up like this, wrap the belt around, and then fluff the towel back down to the front. So in the bush, that's generally all you see, as far as the guys. Yep.
Just like how you got over there, Lydia and Jen. What if in the future the children are interested in maybe coming over and then sometime they might want to stay and become a missionary? How would they go about doing that?
Well, probably the best way is get in contact with us. But raising money for the flight is a big thing. We used to do like TNT fireworks. We would sell fireworks to try to pay for our flights to help, because it's pretty expensive to get over there, but it's definitely worth it. Like a missions trip would change your life. it's exciting to just, I don't know, to see how other people live on the other side of the world, and then see what you can do to and help other people. I don't know. But definitely, if I hadn't taken a mission trip, my life would be totally different right now. But I think, ultimately I took a mission trip because God pushed my parents. Because when I first took my mission trip, I didn't really want to go. And then the second mission trip I went on, I definitely wanted to go on. So God used that first one to work on my heart, and then the rest is history.
You might have covered this already, but because you're working on the water project, so what are they using for water right now?
So it depends on where. So we're bringing this water into about 33 different villages. It's about a 15 miles of water pipe we're using. So a lot of villages. So over that distance, different people have access to different places, different water. So some people might only be like 30 minutes away. That would be like the best case scenario. And other people will have to walk for 2 hours or 2 hours and 30 minutes. And also when we're talking about hiking or walking in Vanuatu or hiking, it's not normal walking and hiking. Like we took a guy over from America. He came over and he worked with Friends in Action for a while. This was back when I was working with Jeremy. And this guy won a marathon he was over 50, but he won the marathon in California, a really big marathon. He was really proud of it. We heard about it several times. But anyway, he won this big marathon in California for the over 50, and really, he was in really good shape. So we took him out, and we were going to go hiking in Vanuatu, and we went out, and we were out for like 2 days, and we hiked to one village, stayed the night, hiked to the next village, stayed the night, share the gospel, hiked to the next, and we did that across the island. Well, anyway, we were only out 2 nights, and he's like, "This is not hiking. I can do hiking. This is mountaineering," because there's and really though, he was serious. He was frustrated because there's so much. It's not all about your legs. You are using your full body. You're often grabbing with your hands as you're hiking because you're going up. Vanuatu's formed from volcanoes and stuff. It's just up, down, up, down, up, down. And when you're hiking somewhere and they point across and they're like, "That's where we're going next," and you're like, "Great. Is there a way around?" Because sometimes you can hike around, but most of the time it's like, I got to go all the way down to the river again, up over that, and then up again to the top. So frustrating. So I remember hiking one time with Pastor Gabby, and I was like, "Pastor Gabby, I don't want to know." And we walk up to a clearing, and he's like, "Look," and I'm like, no, I don't want to know. But anyway, because of that, when we say hiking 2 hours to get water, it's rough. And sometimes they'll send the kids to go get water, and the kids know where the clean water source is, where the spring is, because they know they shouldn't get water if there's cows or certain things above that area. If cows have access to the water's no good. There's certain times like that. So a lot of times though, the kids will just get the bad water because they know they can hike an hour or 30 minutes and get this water, and mom's not going to know. Also, they know stuff about boiling water, but teaching and getting people in the habit of doing things like boiling water, to them it's a waste of time. And also they think, my skin is black, that makes me tough. Like they actually say that they thought forever they weren't going to get COVID because Nevians were too strong. But anyway, they got COVID. No, they get mindsets and just think, we don't have to boil water. That's what white men have to do because they're weak. But anyway, so that's why so many people die at very young ages because of the pollution in the water and stuff like that. But and they know they need clean water. And besides that, they also like the idea of having water in the village. So you don't have to walk anywhere. You just walk over to one place in town and fill up a jug of water. That sounds really good to them. So so it'll definitely help them out being able to have water right there in the village. And they can clean themselves easier, and a lot of things are going to be better for them. I think you had your hand up earlier.
You
Did you not?
Jeff?
Brother Swanson?
I was gonna ask you, I may have already asked you there. Matt and Lydia, how close do they live to you? They got a house in town too? or-
They're right on the edge of town. So when I said we were 15 minutes out of town, we're like 15 minutes to the edge of town. So we could get to Matt and Lydia's house right in 15 minutes.
Okay.
So, and then again, really, town's not like huge. So,
That home about the same size as yours then, is it? Or?
they have a 2-story house, but only like the second story is only their up like their bedroom. So, but yeah, I'd say it's about the same size. Yeah, probably. Maybe a little bit larger. And then they also have a guest house on their property, but that's where Rachel Cochran lives, the missionary. And then she also just got married. What's her husband's name? Is it John? Oh, he can't hear me. Anyway.
He's asking what Rachel's husband's name is.
I hope they're not watching me on the internet. Hi, sorry. Anyway, didn't know his name, but
No, I'll upload it later.
Okay.
We're not live streaming.
Okay.
I'll upload it later.
so I'll be there and be like, oh, they won't want to look me up online. Any other questions? Yes, sir. How do they bathe? They generally go down, like people in town, they'll have running water, but then people outside of town, which is the majority of the population, they normally hike to like a spring or a river and they bathe there. So it feels, whenever you're hiking places and they have a place, the annoying thing is you normally have to hike a good ways to get to the water. So you're hiking to the village, you're all tired and sweaty, then you hike to get to the water, you rinse off, and the water always seems like it's freezing cold, especially if it's closer to a spring. So you're freezing, you finally get out of the freezing water, and then dry off, you're clean, and then you have to hike in the mud all the way back to your village that you're staying the night at, and most of the time, you're going up a hill. So like, I've let other people like go way far ahead of me. I'll get there in an hour, and I'm just like going as slow as possible because I just hate being drenched in sweat before I go to bed. So, but anyway, I mean, what's the point of showering if you're just gonna be all salty and sticky afterwards? But anyway, yeah. So they bathe in lakes or rivers, not lakes. Yep.
So you said that like for you to get electricity out of town, it's like $20,000. How much does it cost like if you were in town?
Oh, if we're in town and we didn't have to bring the power, well, they have a weird system for their power setup. If you use under a kilowatt or under a certain, like not a lot of electricity, basically if you have a few light bulbs and maybe a fan, your price per kilowatt is really cheap. I think maybe it's like 10 or 20 kilowatts. It's really low though. If you go over a certain amount, then you go from paying a really small amount per kilowatt to paying a lot. And you get hammered in this certain range for a long time. Once you use over that amount and you go slightly over, then they drop into like the resort territory. So if you're using a lot of power, then they give you a better discount. So it's not as expensive. But most people we know that are like people from Australia, stuff like that have refrigerators and TVs or other things in their house, they normally pay a lot for electricity because they're right in that bad territory where the company really takes advantage of. Well, anyone else? All right, what time is it? 1:40. Is that about the time we normally finish on a back-to-back? Sure nobody else has a question? Answered all your questions about Vanuatu. All right, what we got?
Is Jen gonna be teaching while she's over there?
Teaching English or
Did
teaching?
teaching school like she did before, kind of
She'll-
teach like village people or that?
She'll be teaching Jonathan. She's got a
Oh,
school
yeah.
curriculum for him. And Right now, we don't have any, like before we had plans and hoping that she would be teaching at Vanuatu College. I don't know. Right now, we don't have any plans for anything, but sometimes God has plans for you that you don't know, and you get there and it's like, wow, this all works out perfect. I guess we're doing this. So currently, we don't have any plans for her to. She might be working with Eileen on translation and stuff. She was teaching her like typing and stuff like that. So currently, we don't have any plans for like teaching English or anything like that. But something could change.
Are the communist Chinese having any influence on the missionaries right now at this time?
I don't think so, but I have. I mean, I could spend a lot of time talking about what China has done in Vanuatu, messing with things, and building they built this big wharf for Vanuatu for Luganville. That Luganville had to pay, the interest rate on that. It was Vanuatu's been taken advantage of by China so many times. They sold all their fishing rights for the tuna and all that to China, and they did that for an agricultural college. Just there's one thing Nevans know how to do, it's how to grow. Like that's all they do. Most of them don't have normal jobs. They just grow in their garden. So why do they need a college to teach them how to grow things? I don't know. Anyway, but they sold all their rights for fishing tuna to China for that. Then they had that wharf built that they'll be paying on forever. That wharf was huge. Way bigger, like cruise ships are humongous. Cruise ships look like skyscrapers that have fallen over, like they're huge. And cruise ships they only fill up like, maybe the biggest ones might fill up like 3/4 of the thing. So really, it's a huge wharf. And everyone was kind of asking like, why'd they have to build it so big? Like, wasn't that just a waste? And then somebody else found out that's the size of that wharf is the exact size that China builds for their aircraft carriers. I don't think that's coincidence, because where China is located China's a perfect, Japan wanted Vanuatu because Vanuatu is a perfect setup for Australia, and it's Vanuatu is a great place for us during World War II because we're able to keep a good eye on everything. Anyway, China's also doing a lot of stuff in Solomon Islands right now. Like, I literally was just hearing news about that. All of our routers that we have for internet over there are all Huawei, which is a company that we don't allow in America because of back doors that have been written into all their software and stuff. So, in the future, China could be an issue for Vanuatu. It could be an issue for us in the future, and definitely if they sold out or China ended up taking over or something like that, missionaries would definitely face a different opposition for sure. But yeah. Yep.
How old do you have to be to go on a missions trip?
How what?
How old do you have to be on a missions trip?
Well, Amos is like 3 months and he's fixing to go on one. So, no, I guess it's up to your parents. Whenever your parents think that if you're going with a group of other people, then you could go pretty young because you're with other adults and you got someone to be there with you. Or if you're going to go out by yourself. I was 17 the first time I went out. Honestly, I didn't know enough about flying. I think that was the first time I ever flew. So maybe I flew in a small plane in America first. But anyway, I didn't even understand that you went to different, I didn't know that you had to go to different booths to get your tickets to get on I didn't know anything about it. And anyway, I somehow managed to get there after a little while of bouncing around. But anyway, yeah, most 17-year-olds are more savvy than I was, so it just depends on your parents how much they trust you. But yeah, I went as a 17-year-old all by myself, so yeah.
Then seeing where they've had a lot of earthquakes around what we has, that affect where you're at.
Oh, we get earthquakes all the time. all the
Just
time.
got practice.
Yep. If you're over there visiting us for 2 weeks, you'll probably film 2 or 3 of them. So, no, most of them aren't terribly bad. And it would also be different if Vanuatu is built like other cities. Yeah, it'd be crumbling apart, but most everyone lives in little shacks. Little shacks just flex and flop around during a bad earthquake. They don't, the worst thing they have to worry about is a typhoon coming in afterwards. So, yeah, generally earthquakes don't normally mess us up. We had one break a bridge, and there's some older buildings that have gotten broken. But, yeah, most of the time we're pretty good. It's just the waves coming afterwards. That's what people normally worry about. All right. Yes, sir. Soap? Most of the time, the minivans don't. But some of them buy these laundry bars in town. It looks like a soap bar. It's about this long, and when you touch it, it's real slimy. It's not normal soap. It's dish detergent. Like they buy their dish detergent. Washing detergent. I don't know. What do we call it? Not dish. Whatever you use in our
Laundry
washing
soap.
machine.
Laundry.
Laundry soap. Thank you. So anyway, it's like they get it hard in like a bar, and then also how they wash their clothes is they'll go to the lakes and they'll get that bar wet and they'll rub it on their clothes, and then there's normally they'll find where these big rocks are at, and they'll take their clothes and they pound their clothes against the rocks, and that's also why their clothes are so worn out. And then they rinse them in the water and then pound them against the rock. And but a lot of times, if they do use soap, they'll use the laundry detergent for their soap. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I guess I'll go ahead and turn it back to you, Dad, or do you want me to just close us in a word of prayer, or what do you want to do? All right. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much for loving us. God, thank you for allowing us to be able to be here. And thank you for just everyone that came today, Lord, and was interested about learning a little bit more about Vanuatu. And Lord, just please be with the ones that weren't able to make it today. And just also be with Dad and Mom and Jen and I as we're traveling out tomorrow. Just keep us safe as we're on the road and then in the sky and bouncing around, Lord. Just please help the flights all work out smoothly. And just thank you for such a wonderful church family here, Lord, that's going to be praying for us. In Jesus' name, amen.